Hi there, Rachel. Can you just tell us who are you and what do you do?
Of course, I'm Rachel Hutchinson. I work for Hilti and I am the head of portfolio and community management for our global organization. We have about 28,000 people, and my job is to identify the business needs that could be supported by learning solutions.
I really like the way you say that, the business need that could be supported. So that's a bit of a challenge. And in our webinar on May 28th, we're focusing on understanding your organisation and its people. How do we know when somebody comes to us and says, my team need training on X? How do we know they actually do need training on X?
Well, the good news is we are a Swiss organization, so we're pretty structured. We've got quite a few processes around our project requests, etc. But the first thing we do is we really look at it to say, what are the root cause analyses? What's actually creating the problem? And we use a three-legged stool as one of our examples. So we say it could be a process that needs fixed. It could be something in the environment, whether that's systemic, whether that's from a team leader coach or something along those lines, and it could be competence. The only projects that we take on are those that deal with the competence leg of that stool. And for the others, we pass those on to the relevant teams.
So, do you get involved in those conversations fairly early on,
Oh,
or is it only when people come to you and say, we need training on this?
so there's a couple of things. One, we should always be scanning the landscape. So we should always be looking for those problems. That's the first piece. It shouldn't always be a reactive environment. Sometimes there's a proactive nature to it. The second thing is that we have really built up a strong network and connection across the organization. And because we focus on creating business value rather than creating a learning solution, we tend to get the requests extremely early, sometimes well before the scope is ever defined, or before they even have any idea of what need they have. That's not to say we don't get the we need a training for presentation skills or we need to improve our communication skills or something like that. Of course, we still get those requests as well. But I would say the majority of what we get is more aligned to we're struggling in area XYZ. What can you guys do to help? Do you have an internal consultant who could come support us and work through this a bit with us?
That's amazing. And it's what most people and departments and even companies are aiming for with any of their kind of learning solutions. Have you always had that experience, or have you had to navigate your way through either at Hilti or in your career, being able to kind of have those conversations where you say, I'm sorry, no, it's not training that is the solution, or it's something else, and had those kind of conflict and had those challenges? How have you dealt with that and learned about that over your career?
Well, I think part of it is that, and I was reflecting on this when experience exchanging with another company recently, we tend to hire people from the business and we develop them with a very comprehensive onboarding program related to learning and development and our learning strategy. So that means they have a foundation of business acumen, of business knowledge, of understanding what our business is trying to achieve, and therefore the conversations don't turn into a no, you can't have training. They turn into a conversation around the business environment and what is occurring in that environment.
That sounds amazing. And what tips can you give people who maybe aren't quite there yet and definitely wanting to be where you are? What tips can you give them to start thinking about changing that conversation and building that rapport, building that, performance confidence, I guess, with the business?
I think the first thing is don't be impatient. That is not something that happens overnight.
Oh,
That is
that's a problem
something that
I have.
you really have to build up. It is by far a journey. So that's my biggest tip ever. The second thing I would say is if you don't know your business, learn enough about your business that when you're asking the first questions, and this is easy to do. You can do this inside the meetings. The thing I always coach my people when we bring them in is the very first question is when somebody's coming to you with a need and they need you to react, that you say to them, okay, so in 6 months, what would this look like? What would you see that was different about this environment? Because right there, you learn so much about the business. You learn what they perceive the gap is. You learn what the success criteria for the stakeholder would be. And they feel really good because they not only know that you're interested in their business, but now they're able to articulate their thoughts and be closer to ensuring that you have alignment between you and whatever project team exists at some point and your stakeholders.
Love those tips and questions. Really, really great things for us to go and try and work on. Ahead of our webinar on the 28th of May, where can we find out more about you if we want to?
So my most active social media is LinkedIn, Rachel Hutchinson on LinkedIn. I do have a Twitter handle, Rachel Walter 1, but I will say I'm not very active on Twitter, so I generally choose to interact with people on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. We'll look for you there and look forward to chatting with you on May 28th.
Thank you. It'll be wonderful.